from Mozart's Marriage of Figaro, an excerpt from the second act. You listen to Castaway's Choice. Our Castaway is writer-director Joel Oliansky. Joel, you're fighting your way through New York, but when you got to Long Island, did things improve there? Was that a different environment?
Had more space, and of course, just about it was a rather typical suburb called the Gables. What did they call them? Spanish-style houses, stucco houses, and you find that you find hoodlums among young men anywhere, and so that's what I always laugh when people say. It's good for a kid to grow up in the street because he learns more about life. But I always thought, when you're a child, there's two ends of the spectrum. One end is Adolf Hitler, and the other end is a sniveling coward. And you find, as a small boy, which end you're closest to. And I think you find that out in a classy prep school just about as fast as you find it out on the street or anywhere in between. And so it was a kind of Ray Bradbury nightmare as a child. But again, it was alleviated because I was always going into New York. It was 45 minutes away on the Long Island Railroad. And a couple of years after we moved out, I was accepted to the High School of Performing Arts, and also got a part in an off-Broadway show that played on weekends. So I spent a lot of time on the train.
So you did start your entertainment career as an actor then?
Yes.
And has that stood you in good stead for what came after?
In the sense that it gave me a certain sympathy for actors, and when you write for them and direct them, I think it's a mistake not to. I think every playwright should act, whether he likes to or not, once in a while.
What were you actually doing in the High School for Performing Arts?
I was there as an acting major. I auditioned, and I've often wondered why in the world I chose the selections I chose, and in turn why in the world they took me. I auditioned. I guess most kids, come in and do Puck or Ariel or something. Or what. I came in with two pieces. One from a play called Tomorrow the World, which is a play about a Hitler youth, and where the little boy describes how he betrayed his father. And I followed that up with Renfield from Dracula. Mind you, I was 13 years old. I guess they took me because I was so weird. Their curiosity got the best of them. I don't know. And the High School of Performing Arts was a place where you studied very close to the straight Stanislavski method. Our acting teacher was a kind of young ne'er-do-well named Sidney Lumet, that went on to much better things than teaching me how to act, and much more successful in other areas than teaching me how to act. And but I suppose the most important part of that time, outside of being in the city in 1949, when Streetcar Named Desire and Death of a Salesman was happening, and certain kinds of music were happening too. And I noticed there was a place called the Royal Roost not too far from the school. And I used to cut school in the afternoon. All the acting courses were in the morning. Acting, dance, choral speaking, improv, and so on. And in pantomime. And in the afternoon were the algebra, English, civics, and so on. And I managed to cut school and go to jazz matinees at the Royal Roost, which cost $50. They let kids in. They put you in a special section and gave you a milkshake, or sold you a milkshake. And you listen to these strange people who I'd just begun to be aware of on the radio, playing this strange music called bebop that I found really exciting and new, and again, like I was in on something.
Is this where your choice of the next...
yeah, well, also, you have to piggyback if you're going to only take 10 records, and so I put Bird and Dizzy on the same cut instead of a separate one for each, although it seems right, they do belong together, and Parker referred to Dizzy Gillespie as the other half of my heartbeat. And this was recorded at Birdland, which was came to be my favorite place in the whole world for many years.
It wasn't years ago. Here it is, Blue and Boogie.
Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie with Blue and Boogie. You're listening to Castaway's Choice. I'm John McNally. Our Castaway is writer-director Joe Oliansky. Joe, how long were you in New York?
Well, I was not in New York. I lived in Long Island. I spent a lot of time on the Long Island Railroad, and in New York I finally started college, the only college that would take me. A teacher's college, they'll take anybody in upstate New York. It was interesting, I learned the word inordinately going there, because I remember the dean of students said to me that we can help you pack if you're inordinately slow in leaving. So after that brief adventure, I went to college as well on Long Island. I spent a lot, I guess, in the first 24 years of my life.
So you were in New York when the blacklisting was going on?
Yes, indeed.
Where were you at that time? In high school, or you just left? Or?
I was in high school. My parents had a lot of progressive friends, and it was a kind of a scary time. Very scary indeed.
Did that affect your outlook on anything?
Yes and no. I was very lucky. I was like all 15-year-olds, a staunch communist, and you hope you grow out of it. And I was lucky enough. I was working in a place in the Catskills as kind of a folk singer, and hanging out. And I was sitting, it was right around the time that Khachaturian and Shostakovich and Prokofiev had been censured by the Soviet government. And there were several people sitting around this swimming pool, and one was a rather older lady with a foreign accent who was saying, no, it's true, they should be censored. An artist has a duty to the proletariat. He must not fall off in his own universe, and so on and so on. And I was thinking, well, maybe that's true. And then there was this wonderful woman. I'll never forget her. I owe her a lot. She was wearing a floppy hat and a long cigarette holder and sunglasses, and lying on a chaise lounge there by the pool. And in the midst of all this, she said, oh, banana oil. I'll never forget that. She said, a composer should compose whatever he feels like. If you don't like it, don't listen to him. And something snapped in me and said, yes, that's right. And
where did your choice of William Walton's finale from Henry V come from?
Well, it's another piggyback situation. I've got to get a lot of the things I love in here. Shakespeare, which I'm not allowed to bring in book form. Laurence Olivier, whose the memory is awakened by this music, and Walton, who I think is a wonderful composer. The reason I chose this is twofold. This is the last cue in the film of this soundtrack, although this is not from the soundtrack, this particular recording. And the main title played over it. And it is, I always said, if I could only have one director credit in my life, this would be the music I'd like to have behind it. As it happens, the credit says produced and directed by Laurence Olivier. And I'm convinced it's what made him a star, this music. And the other thing is, like the Bach that I've also chosen, it is not an original melody of Walton's. It is an arrangement of a setting of a hymn. And I'm, as an arranger myself, I guess, I'm not a particularly original thinker or conceptual thinker. I do better with other people's ideas, adapting them. I'm impressed when composers do that. So I'm impressed by good arrangements, whether by Bach or by Walton or by Nelson Riddle.